y'all, it's Betsy, and today we're going to do a chit chat get ready with me. And it's all going to be over holiday shopping, holiday spending. Now, before I jump into this, I did want to say these thoughts and opinions are my own, but I figured if I was going through this, then probably some of you are having the same thoughts. And, you know, you don't have to agree with me. This is just what I am thinking from my life experience. And the reason why this subject came up, I was talking to some of my friends this morning trying to figure out gifts, and it's so stressful dealing with the holidays. Let's put that out there first. And I am a habitual overspender when it comes to the holidays. Like, I typically start September, late August, early September, like runs back to school season was over, I would start Christmas shopping. And I have this feeling and thought in my head that I need to make it better and better every year. So that comes along with how much I spend, and I typically end up overspending. Now, it's not something that like puts me into debt or anything like that, but it does cause a lot more strain. And it's not just the spending part of it, it's the act of trying to find the perfect gift, especially whenever you're dealing with people who have everything. And, you know, but we think we need more, if that makes sense. And that's the hard part of all this. It's like, what do you actually need and why do you need it? So I'm going to talk about my thoughts and opinions on holidays. So, as I said, I typically start Christmas shopping beginning of September, end of August. I am typically through Christmas shopping by Black Friday because I own a retail store, which we are closing the business, but I always have to work Black Friday, so I try to have everything beforehand done because I don't want to sit there and add the stress of trying to shop for everybody's Christmas gifts while dealing with the fun of having a retail store during the holidays. And if you've ever worked or owned a retail store during the holidays, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, the holiday season is typically my favorite because how everything's decorated and stuff like that, but it can be like dealing with people in general during that time period can be very difficult. People get stressed, people get angry, you know, and I think I along the way have forgotten what actually matters during the holidays, because with having the kids and things like that, I guess the best way to put it, like, I had a traumatic childhood. I've never hidden that fact. I have no issue talking about it. But dealing with that kind of thing and not having a good childhood definitely made it where I wanted to give my kids like that Hallmark Lifetime kind of life. You know, I wanted them to have everything that I didn't have and have like traditions and big good Christmases and stuff like that. But that led me down the path of I need to do more and more each year. I don't know about y'all, but that is a problem that I tend to deal with. It's like, I've achieved this, so now I need to do more this time and more this time. Well, that becomes an issue, or at least it has for me, because I stress myself out trying to worry about keeping up with the Joneses or giving them more and more every year. That how do you keep doing that? And part of where this comes up in these thoughts is we did a garage sale a couple of weeks ago. Well, maybe it was a month ago. And when we were going through like movies, video games, clothing, there were so many items in my household that still had the tags on it, and everybody's stuff. Because typically for Christmas, I give my kids like, okay, you can pick 10 things and that will be your Christmas list. But I always end up buying more than those 10 things. And if I buy more for one, I buy for them all. Like, if someone's got 12 gifts, then everybody has 12 gifts, if that makes sense. So that adds some pressure to it as well. But I'm like the person, I want to make sure I give the perfect Christmas gift, the perfect birthday present. Well, that adds a lot of pressure and stress on me. And why am I doing this? This is what I've been thinking about. So I did make some notes so we could talk about it. Because as I said, I'm a habitual overspender. Like, I set a budget, but whenever I actually go through and add up, because I typically start super early on Christmas, it's crazy the amount of money I spend on gifts. And would that money be better spent on other things? Like, I'm trying to decide on what I'm going to do for Christmas this year, because I haven't even, like, we're fixing to be in December. I haven't bought a Christmas gift. I haven't bought a single Christmas gift yet. And that's an issue. But I've been thinking about it and trying to figure out what I want to do and how I want to continue to do it. Because I've talked about it. We want to move. We're planning the move. So I don't want to bring a bunch more stuff into my house, because the more stuff I have, the more stuff I have to pack and bring with me, and that adds even more stress to the situation. So, you know, I was thinking, well, what can I do that won't bring in a lot more stuff? So that's part of it. But it's also, it's not just the money. And that's what people need to realize. It's like, whenever I talk about this stuff, it's not like I can't afford what I'm purchasing. There's more to it than that. It's because part of the thing is just because you can afford to do it, does that mean you always should? Probably not. Or at least in my opinion, probably not. Sorry, I'm getting a makeup brush. But I shouldn't constantly be doing what I'm doing. And again, it's not because I can't afford it, but because it's wasteful. So I've been thinking about what I'm spending, why I'm spending it quite a bit more. And the holidays, I feel like, for a lot of people, are worse than other parts of the year. So if you're someone who deals with depression or things like that, you might feel like during the holidays, because things aren't going maybe the way you planned or things like that, that you need to treat yourself. You know, we've gotten in this mindset of self-care is buying something for yourself. And that makes it very difficult. Or at least it does in my opinion. Because it's like, but does the stuff matter? Because I know for myself personally, like, I'm excited when something new comes in the mail, which part of the thing with online shopping is you don't get the instant gratification like when you go to a store. So that also definitely makes it where I spend more whenever it comes to online shopping, because I'm not getting that instant gratification of something being in my hand. But I get excited for the new, and then I open it, I'm excited, I might use it once, twice, and then I'm on to the next new thing. And I don't feel like that's how I want to live my life. Because honestly, I would much rather do things and have experiences than stuff. Because you can't take the stuff with you when you go. And whenever you go, people aren't sitting there talking about, oh, well, you know, I'm so glad my dad bought me this car. No. The things that they remember are the moments. So to me, investing more in those moments and less on the actual aspect of stuff is more of what I'm wanting to do, if that makes sense. So I've thought about that at great length lately and trying to figure out what and how I'm going to proceed with my shopping habits. Because I don't want to say it's a shopping addiction, because I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like it is, but it could be. But since I've started my low buy in September, I've actually stuck to it really, really well, because I gave myself rules that I could actually follow and stick with. So that has definitely helped to make sure I could stick to my plan. But also, I have a great group of friends around me that are definitely helping me stick to my guns over what I'm purchasing. And I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy this one eyeshadow palette on Black Friday. I decided I'm not going to. I'm not gonna buy anything on Black Friday because I don't need it. And I come from the mindset, if I'm not going to buy it full price, why would I buy it on sale? I mean, maybe that's wrong to some people, but that's kind of how I look at things. And that's part of it. But the act of going out and trying to buy all these items, like when it comes to Black Friday or any holiday like that, it's a nightmare. You know, you see on TV like all these people fighting over the Tickle Me Elmos or whatever. And that to me is a little bit sad, a little bit scary, and I don't want to be that person anymore. Like, I've never fought anybody over a toy, but I don't want the thought of trying to get a toy to stress me out bad enough that I'm going to be horrible to other people, I guess is the best way to say it. Because it's just not worth it. You know, yes, your kid may think it's important right now to get the PlayStation 5, but guess what? They're also going to think it's important to get the PlayStation 6 and the PlayStation 7 or whatever that object is. Because once the newness wears off, it's like, okay, let's move on to the next thing and move on to the next thing and move on to the next thing. But that's not always a good way to be. And as I said, for myself personally, I always want to make this holiday better than the last and better than the last. Well, that's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress whenever you're always trying to outdo yourself, because, you know, then it's like, okay, do I need to spend this much money on a kit? Would it be better if I spent it on other things? Like trying to decide what I'm going to do for the kids for Christmas. I've got 2 adults, 1 child still, and he's fixing to be 15. And, you know, they don't believe in Santa Claus anymore. Let's state that. I mean, not many people that age do. But they don't believe in Santa Claus anymore. So it's not like I'm held to make sure that their list dreams come true. So that's part of it. But also, you know, if I buy Nadia clothes, she's not going to wear them all. If I go through and buy Cameron video games, unless it's something that he specifically asked me for, he may not play it. Same thing for Jeremy or Caden, you know. And why do I feel like I need to do this? Like, I would buy movies, video games, things that they had never even mentioned to make sure there was more under the Christmas tree. And like, you can probably, if you follow me like on Facebook or anything like that, you can go and look, because you can see pictures of our previous Christmases. The amount of gifts that I had around the Christmas tree was astronomical. And this isn't to brag, this is to show that I realize that I have an issue. Again, it's living this life that I've had. I struggle with certain things. Like, I feel like if I don't provide this, then I'm not a good mom, or, you know what I'm saying? So that's part of it. But how do I handle that situation? How do I make it better? That is part of what I struggle with. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this time, but is it going to continue to work? So whenever I'm having these thoughts or feelings, I am going to try to do videos about things, because I do want other people's inputs and things, like their thoughts and how they handle those situations. You know what I'm saying? So that's where all of this is coming from, partly. But again, like, I talked to my mother-in-law this morning, and it was like, you know, I seem to remember when I was younger and didn't have as much money, being happier. But we get in this mindset of we need to earn more, we need to make more so we can buy more. And then in turn, it keeps happening that way. You know what I'm saying? It's like we keep striving for more and more. But is it honestly healthy? I don't know. You know, we see the Kardashians, and let me say this, I am not going to fault anyone for how they spend their money. That is not my place. You can spend your money however you want to, whether you can afford it or not, that's on you. But when you see these lifestyles, it's like, oh, well, I need to emulate this. I need to have this kind of life. I will not be successful without it. So you almost, I'm not going to say procure, but you almost take and change everything so that way your life will be as great as like Kim Kardashian's. But I'm never going to be a billionaire. I mean, who knows? Maybe Jeremy with his cryptocurrency will make me millions. But even so, like, I don't really want that kind of money. You know, I feel like money is awesome, but then it's not. So that's part of what makes it very hard, is like, what matters and what matters to me and what matters to my husband. And a lot of that for me is family, spending time together, you know, and through everything that's happened since, you know, the Rona started, it definitely has put things in a different perspective in my head and in my mind, because it's like, how do you handle this? What do you do? You know what I'm saying? Because with everything that's happened, it's like I've tried to fill the void of not going anywhere and not doing anything with stuff. And if I don't get a handle on the amount of stuff I'm bringing in, then when I can do things again, it's going to be the same vicious circle where it's like, okay, I've done this. Now what can I do? Now what needs to be done? You know what I'm saying? So I've thought about things quite a bit from that perspective, you know, and it's not on anybody else how I feel. It's just, this is my thoughts. But the thought of the holidays for a lot of people, it brings on stress. It can bring on depression, because you see on social media what everybody else is doing, and one, that's stressful because you're like, well, maybe I should do it too. And then depression is if you can't afford it, because then you feel worthless. And again, those are not ways to think, and that's not ways to be, because stuff isn't the most important thing. People are the most important thing. You know, we talk about it a lot, like when you pass away, what is the important legacy to leave behind? Because for me, I don't want my kids to be like, oh, well, my mom, before, like when she died, she bought me everything that I wanted. No, I want my kids to be like, my mom was great because she spent time with us, that she brought us here, that we did this together. You know, I want to carry on these traditions when I have kids, kind of thing. That's what matters to me. And I need to remind myself of that, because that's part of it. That's part of like dealing with what's going on, is, you know, understanding the underlying feelings behind it. And I feel like I need to have more because I had nothing. But does that mean that's what I should do? I don't think so. And that's what I'm trying to remind myself, is I don't need to do this. I'm wanting to do this. Now, does that mean that those issues that I'm dealing with aren't real? No. I got lots of issues. You should see my baggage, the emotional baggage I deal with. But I am trying to learn, and I am trying to be better, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to be the reason why, like, my kids have emotional baggage. And I don't want them to grow up and have these same thoughts and feelings of like, I need to do more and more and more and more. Because again, I was happier when I had less, because it's like, I have more, so now I need to do more, and then I need to do more, and I need to do more. But that's not a way to live. And on top of all that, you know, other thoughts that I've had is, you know, with my health issues and stuff like that, well, if something happens, what are we going to do with all this stuff? What are we going to do? So that puts things in a different perspective and puts a different spin on things, or at least it does for me. So I have thought about it, and this is where I'm kind of at. You know, I also tend to feel guilty when it comes to the holidays. Like, if the kids come home from school after Christmas and they're like, oh, my friend got this, or my friend, like, I start to think, well, maybe I should have gotten them that. Maybe I should have done that. So, like, that's part of it as well. It's like, these are the voices that are inside my head that make me feel less than and not worthy. It's like, I need to be more. I need to be a better mom. And to me, because again, I had nothing. I mean, but I didn't have any emotional support or anything like that either. So I try to give my kids everything that I didn't have, which is not unusual, but it's also not the stuff that matters. You know, my kids would definitely probably benefit a little bit more from not getting as much. You know, we've always been one to, like, we adopt kids at the holidays to make sure that they get Christmas gifts and clothing. We participate in food drives. You know, we try to do what we can because we have an abundance of stuff. But then I also made my children feel like they needed that abundance of stuff. And that's a hard thing for me to admit and realize is, you know, that I have made my children materialistic. And I don't want them to be. So how do I change that? Well, I can't change their thoughts on material possessions until I change my thoughts on material possessions. Because, like, when we've started looking for houses and stuff like that in Florida, do I want to have to buy a bigger house to fit stuff in? No, I really don't. So that's part of it. I'm back. There was a little bit of commotion in my household with the dogs and the cats, so I have to remember where I'm at. But yeah, like, part of it is I feel like I need to fill this hole. And for me, it is a hole. It's like, I want to fill this hole with stuff. But I don't know if that's the right way to live. And for me, like, I don't think for me that it is the right way to live, period. I mean, and again, these are my personal thoughts and opinions. So how you feel about it may be completely different. But I don't want to raise my kids to be materialistic. It's like, what was it? Yesterday I was watching a documentary and they were talking about plastics and how it started. I think it was on Netflix, and it was like History 101 or something was the documentary series. And they were talking about plastics and how I think it was 90% of all plastics created are still on this earth. What footprint have I left? You know, is that the footprint? Is that the memo I want to leave behind? Because, you know, I've grown up with the thought and the know-how that global warming was a real thing. That, you know, climate change is important. But I've still done my part to add to it. Now, this does not mean I am anti-consumerism. I am not. I don't want to not get things. I don't want to not give gifts, because that is one of my love languages, you know, is gift giving and gift receiving. It's one of the things that I feel like I do and I do well, is taking care of other people in that way. And I love doing it, but is it always necessary? I guess is more of the thoughts I am having behind it. Like, do I need to constantly be the best gift giver? Probably not, because even though I think so much about what I get people, how much are they actually going to use it? You know what I'm saying? That's more of what I'm trying to think about now. You know, does anybody really need another eyeshadow palette? Because God knows I don't. Especially with all that I already have. So it's like, whenever dealing like with my husband and like trying to figure out what to give me for Christmas. It's like, oh, do I need more stuff? Because I don't. And just to address the elephant in the room, this is a wig on my head. I decided to cut off all my hair. Well, actually, I shaved it all off. I've been dealing with health issues, and it's done a lot of things to my body. My hair is one of the bad things. My skin is also not as good as it used to be. Y'all can see I've got breakouts and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm having all kinds of issues. And instead of dealing with the stress of it all, it's like, I will cut it off and see if it will grow back healthier. But once it's at a point that I actually like how it looks without a wig on, I will go without a wig. But just to let y'all know. But like, I have really been trying to put in the work and think about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And that's a hard thing to really admit. You know what I'm saying? It's a hard thing to think about and admit to yourself that maybe you're not, or I'm not, teaching my kids the best thing. You know, am I teaching my kids to be materialistic? Yes, I am. Is that healthy? No, it's not. But how do I fix it? Well, it starts with me. You know, it starts with what I am showing them and showing other people. You know, if I am worried about the next new thing that comes out, then they're going to be worried about the next new thing that comes out. You know, my kids, thank God that I haven't had them, they haven't had to live the life that I've had to, like not knowing where the next meal is going to come from, not knowing if we're going to have electricity or if we're even going to have a roof over my head. My kids have never had to worry about those things. And I'm so thankful that they haven't. But because they haven't, it also puts things in a different perspective for them. You know, for me, I know that things can go away in an instant. For them, they've always had the stability of everything. You know what I'm saying? So that puts things in a different light, in a different perspective, at least for, as I said, for me. And I want to be the change. I want to show the world something different. You know, again, I will never be a minimalist. That's never going to happen. I mean, and that's not what I'm saying in this at all. And I'm not saying it's not okay to want, and I'm not saying it's not okay to buy. I'm saying this from my perspective because I want to be a better human. I want to do more and provide more. And again, every year dealing with the Christmas stuff, like my stress level just keeps increasing and keeps increasing because I have to do more. I have to do better. But does that stuff matter? Because it really doesn't. It doesn't matter at all. Because one, you can't take it with you when you go. You know, is it better to have a 4,000 square foot house and, you know, work all the time and not be around when your kids are growing up, so that way you can afford, you know, them to have the latest iPhone every month and the newest pair of Air Jordans or whatever? Because I don't think so. I don't think that that is what I want to show my children, you know? And that's been something that is very difficult for me to admit. And it's scary. It's scary because, you know, like whenever I was a kid, we had, you know, everybody has utility bills. Like you have your house, whether it's rent or house note, and you're always going to have insurance. You might have a car payment, you might not. You've got electricity, water, that kind of thing. But the monthly expenses that I have now compared to what I had before I had kids, like cell phones, we would buy, like, because the way that minutes worked, like I would buy a minute card and I would have a certain amount of minutes to use unless it was nights or weekends. And that's when I would talk to people. Cell phones were expensive. We had basic internet that wasn't expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like we had all these things, but they weren't the cost of it is now. Like the cost of your basic needs are more. Food, water, shelter, electricity. Those I think are like the basic needs that you kind of have to fill. But we've also, and I'm bad about this, thinking that the extras are necessities. Like, do I need a cell phone? No, I really don't. Will I always have one? Yes, I will. But it's remembering that these things are wants, not needs. And putting that back into perspective, because it's not always about just wants or needs. It's not always about what you can afford and what you can't. It's also about how you want to live your life. And a lot of times for myself, I filled the gap with my kids because I worked a lot. And then I was involved in school and stuff like that. So I was always doing something. So I filled the gap of when I couldn't focus on them with stuff. And I don't want it to constantly be like that. I mean, I really don't. And I don't want my kids to be that way. Because, again, some of the best times and memories my kids have are like the times I was up with them at school. Well, if I was up with them at school, that meant I wasn't making money. So that changed the thoughts I had on things. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much to this conversation, and I want to know what your thoughts are down below too. Because again, we're in the midst of all the hustle and bustle of all this time of year, and you're inundated with so much stuff of you need more. You know, do we need a new car every year? Do we, these are things that you have to think about and you have to reconcile personally. And that's something, at least for me, that is very, very, very hard to admit. It's, what have I done? What have I done to myself? And I look at where I'm at, and I don't think I'm happy. It's not that I'm not happy with the people in my life. It's what I have decided to push my life towards, I guess is better. I don't mind having more money, but I also don't want that to be the sole purpose of my life. Because here's the thing with money. At least there is for me. People are like, money won't solve your problems. And it won't. But it makes things easier to a point. But then it becomes harder again after a certain point. Because you get to a place that you're comfortable, and then you're like, oh, well, I need more. I need to do more. And that's not where I want my life to go. So, I am thinking about, for Christmas, for everybody, doing experiences instead of stuff. Hopefully that works out well for me. But yeah, because we don't really need more. I want more quality time, I want my kids to have great memories of me. I want my nieces and nephews to have great memories of me. Because do you think my nephew's going to remember what I got him for his first Christmas? No. But he'll remember the trip to the zoo. I don't know. I probably rambled and babbled, but as I said, I'm just sitting here trying to work through my own thoughts and feelings about things. But hopefully y'all enjoy this. If you do, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right down below. And if there were any talking points that I missed that are important to you, let me know. But I guess that's it. So we'll see y'all later.